Americans are living longer lives. Healthier lifestyles and cutting-edge medicine is helping the population of people over the age of 65 expand rapidly. In fact, census estimates predict by 2030 there will be over 70 million Americans 65 or older, comprising nearly 20% of the total population. And the same data indicates the fastest growing segment of the population are people over the age of 100. This will have an impact on many areas of society, but most significantly on the increased need for long-term care.
Many people have not financially planned for their long-term care, or they thought they planned, and economic conditions have shrunk their retirement savings. So there's going to be a growing need for state or federal funded long-term care.
According to census data, there are already close to 13 million Americans living in long-term care facilities. That number is expected to double by 2050.
These residents oftentimes are in a facility where the only human interaction they have is with their caregivers, and if their caregivers are providing poor care, the resident's not going to complain because that's the only human interaction they have, that's the only person who provides care to them. So the Ombudsman program is extremely important because it puts another player in there, it puts another advocate in there for the residents.
During the Nixon administration, the Long-Term Care Ombudsman program was created. Included in this federal law is the ability to designate local long-term care ombudsman volunteers who can advocate on behalf of residents or their families with complaints about long-term care facilities.
We train our volunteers to understand state regulations and the laws that govern long-term care facilities so that they can be educators of the law and of the resident rights that are so critical to the quality of life for the residents. We train them in investigating complaints and issues that the residents are having within the facility, and then how to resolve those complaints to the resident satisfaction.
A model long-term care ombudsman program can be found in Washington State. Working under the Multi-Service Center, a nonprofit community action agency, the Washington State Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program resolved nearly 6,500 complaints in 2008 by residents in nursing homes and other long-term care facilities.
The Washington State Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program has a long history of great successes. We were able to get a state residents' rights law passed back in the early 90s to protect people in assisted living and adult family homes. People who live in long-term care facilities have a special set of rights because they need that extra level of protection. And so the Ombudsman is there to be sure that those rights are honored.
A resident said that he was being made to get up at 6:30 in the morning for breakfast, and the resident didn't want to do that. The Ombudsman came and talked to the staff and said that the resident has the right to get up at a later time for breakfast, and so they worked it out.
The Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program's success can be attributed to its core of 400 volunteers who visit facilities weekly and get to know the residents. They are the local problem solver, emphatic listener, and resource for residents, family, and facility staff.
I became an ombudsman because I received a solicitation in the mail. The program sounded like something I would be able to do, and I would enjoy, and I could provide public service, so I did. If I can make somebody's day a little bit better, put a smile on their face, ease their concerns a little bit, that's my reward.
2 weeks after my mother's 99th birthday, she was served with legal papers, a lawsuit saying she had to get out of the home. And the basic charge was, or allegation was, that she was in unlawful detainer of her apartment, and they wanted her out. If it wasn't for the state long-term care ombudsman office, my mother would be out on the street.
As our federal and state governments try to grapple with this busting system and the aging baby boomers, the need for advocacy will continue, and we'll encounter new problems that we hadn't anticipated, but that's part of the beauty of the Ombudsman program is as we learn of these new problems, we look for big solutions. We address it with the individual, but we also look for the big solutions that can be applied to all people in long-term care.
Are you or a loved one living in a nursing home, adult family home, or assisted living facility and have a complaint about care or living conditions? Perhaps you have questions about what you can and can't do while living in a long-term care facility. There is an agency in the state of Washington that can provide the answers and directly assist with resolution. The Washington State Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program is here to help. With both federal and state mandates, this important program is a strong advocate for people who live in long-term care facilities. The Ombudsman Program understands that not all residents are elderly. Younger people living with disabilities also live in long-term care facilities, and the Ombudsman is here to assure that their rights are protected as well.
Many residents in these facilities are already extremely frail and vulnerable. Many of them don't have family and friends to advocate on their behalf. So having an independent advocate on their side allows the voiceless to have a voice.
The decision to move to or place a loved one in long-term care is never an easy one, and the Ombudsman Program will defend residents so their civil rights are not left at the door.
Long-term care is a growing industry, and with that it means that we always need more long-term care ombudsman volunteers. There's no other volunteer job like it, and I encourage people to step forward and become a volunteer long-term care ombudsman.
Whether your problem is simply with the taste of the food, or wanting to sleep a little later, or as complex as an eviction, they are here to help. For more than 2 decades, the Washington State Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program, with over 400 ombudsmen and 13 regional offices throughout the state, have been advocating for the rights of the thousands of people living in Washington State's nursing, boarding, and adult family homes. For more information, log on to multiservicecenter.com or call 800-562-6028.